Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, hi, Coach Mika. How would you like being introduced, or like, I don't know what people call you. Do they call you Coach Mika, or they call you by your
Uh,
last name?
Coach Myka, or like
All right.
Coach Myka is completely fine.
Okay. All right, Coach Micah. So, of course, we kind of chatted already about the high school to college pipeline. And just kind of before that, can you just kind of give everyone like an overview of who you are, um, maybe credentials if you want, or just background like your experience in cheer, things of that nature?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Myka Barnes Garcia. I have been a cheerleader for pretty much as long as I can remember. And once I realized that I was so passionate about it, I decided to start coaching at the age of 15. Just little tiny taught classes in a dance studio. And of course, did that all the way through high school. And then it's time to go to college. And I knew that I needed a stream of income. So it just kind of naturally continued. And I ended up coaching at ACE of Hattiesburg for about 5 years, I believe. So all the way through college and a little bit post graduation. And through there, that's when I became USASF certified in levels 1 through 4 in tumbling. And that was when I fell in love with coaching, just watching the girls grow within the community, even though I wasn't a part of that community, but I did become a part of that community. And then from there, post graduation, still ended up coaching high schools everywhere that I moved to. And so now I'm realizing that it's still something that I love to do. So I ended up creating my own company, which is Momentum Athletics. And we are currently located in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we primarily provide like mobile tumble services to schools within the Charlotte Mecklenburg school system, and then those that are outside of the county district as well.
Okay, cool. And you said you worked in Hattiesburg. So where did you cheer in college, and if so, like where? Because of course that's Mississippi.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So I ended up cheering at the University of Southern Mississippi. I was on their all-girl team and I was a back spot. And fun fact, I was on the team and we were the first team to compete at NCAA Nationals in Daytona. And our first year, we ended up placing 4th place, which was pretty huge. SMU was right there with us, Mizzou. So it was really rewarding to be on that team and kind of set the foundation and look back now at what the program currently is.
Okay, nice, nice. Let's see. Okay. And are you originally like from Mississippi, or are you from like where are you, like what state at least?
Yeah, so I grew up in Mississippi, kind of went back and forth between Denver, Colorado, and Mississippi, but
Oh, okay.
went to high school, Mississippi, college, Mississippi.
Okay, cool. Nice. All right. So, um, of course, like how I usually do my questions is I like to say who, what, when, where, why. Um, so you kind of already told me who you are. Um, and like what we're discussing, of course, is that pipeline. Now, how would you describe the high school to college pipeline? Like, what is that? Like, if I didn't know, of course, I have understanding, but like if someone didn't know what like you meant, like how would you describe like a college, like a high school to college pipeline?
Yeah, for sure. So really from a coach's standpoint, and something that I'm noticing now in the school system too, is really educating all athletes on the opportunities that are out there to cheer in college, and then educating them on what type of program style each college is. So letting them know that, even as a high school program, is this high school program a UCA style high school program? Is it a stomp and shake program? Is it an NCA style type of program? And so really starting to get our athletes to understand that, and then kind of coaching them through what type of programs and what type of college cheer prep clinics they can start going to. So one thing that I did with the high school that I had out here in Charlotte, Audrey Kell High School, is a lot of the girls had no idea, but they knew that they wanted to cheer in college. They just didn't know where to start. And so we compiled a list of colleges that were in the 4-state region that were close to us, and just pulled out all of their college clinic dates. And those were primarily, stunt clinics, but just an opportunity for me to take them to those clinics. And so they could see that they're not alone in cheer, that it's not just them who thinks that cheering is so much fun, but just seeing other athletes from across the country, but then being able to shake hands with those coaches and see other college cheerleaders on that level as well. Making sure that they're kind of watching football games, but are they looking at the sidelines, telling them and giving them that opportunity to go to a college game on a Saturday, to just watch the cheerleaders and see and feel that environment and possibly want to be in that. So a lot of my personal coaching style is college prep work. Just like you would do college prep work for educational purposes, we do the exact same thing for cheerleading.
Okay, nice, nice. And I know like you kind of discussed since you do it, um, did you have that opportunity or did you have like a coach that understood that when you were in high school, or were you kind of kind of like me, like I just figure it out as I went along, like first time, let's go.
Yeah, for sure. I figured it out on my own. I remember the gym that I went to, just seeing the college cheerleaders' headshots on the walls, but no one ever told me how they got there. It was just kind of like they went to Mississippi State, they went to Ole Miss, and then that's how it happened. And even at that time when I was graduating high school, you didn't really see too many all-girl programs around yet. It was really still co-ed based, and I'm a very strong back spot, but if the only option for me to cheer in college was to go co-ed, those were a lot of the clinics that I had to sign up for, but I just wasn't good at co-ed, obviously, because I'm not a top girl. And so then I started noticing other programs like Southern Miss that had all-girl programs already established. But I wish I would have had a coach to kind of pipeline me to a particular program instead of me just figuring out on my own and my parents, dragging me along.
Oh yeah, I totally understand because my focus, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but my focus was predominantly academic, even though I had like my schools that I wanted to cheer at. Um, like my main goal was to go to HBCU initially. So I was like, oh, I love Southern, Grambling, Arkansas Pine Bluff, but I'm like, I've never been on a co-ed flight for real. And if so, I wasn't flying whatsoever. So I guess my mindset was just like, okay, well, no matter what, I'll be able to make a team if I went to HBCU. I was just gonna focus on academics. However, I know everybody doesn't have that opportunity, and as things change and evolve, it is up to us, like as coaches, to help kids, like go along that path. Of course, academics is important, but still, you want them to be able to enjoy their sport, especially if they see themselves doing it long term. So I definitely get that. Now, and you said you typically go to games now. Um, Most of the girls I know, they usually do. You usually kind of discuss with the girls what they're looking for in the colleges, or they kind of already have that in place.
Yeah,
Like,
I would say some of them like actually don't have it in place. I actually kind of put it in their hands. And the first thing I asked them is, where did they want to go? Like I have a girl, she's mentioned to me on plenty of these college trips that she wants to go to Georgia. And, that's where she wants to cheer. So immediately I'm like, okay, that's an SEC school. You're going to get great game day experience. Their college competition team is a little bit newer. They actually have a separate competition team. So as a coach, as soon as they let me know that, I kind of go into like research mode. What coaches can I meet? Okay, if I know that she wants to go to an SEC school, I know tumbling requirement, she needs to have a solid standing tuck. She needs to be able to do a full up, pop off extension. And so those are the type of things that we do. And I sit down with all of my juniors and seniors. And at the beginning of the year, that's what we talk about. And those are our goals. And I ask them, how can I best serve you to get you there? Typically around our freshmen and sophomores, we bring them along to those clinics as well, just for them to get the stunting experience. And already as a freshman, they can work towards something immediately.
Okay, cool. And this kind of goes into another question. Oh, it's two questions that it kind of goes into, but I'll go with this first one. Are you able now? Me, right now, I coach at a historically Black high school, and most of my girls, they don't have as much cheer experience. However, I have a few girls that I already know they're going to go to college, and I'm kind of pushing them along that train, but they're like freshmen, so I'm kind of getting them started on that. Now, with me, I can look at certain girls and I can tell, like, just by what they enjoy in practice, just like how they cheer, stuff like that. I can kind of go towards what school they might be interested in. Like, typically, most of my girls, they're probably going to be HBCU cheerleaders. And at least two, I'm like, okay, I know you're a dancer, so I think you should go to Winston-Salem just because she's a dancer by training, and she's not a cheerleader. Like, this is her first year cheering. But I'm like, how are you able to like look at some girls? And sorry that my baby.
No, you're okay.
they're fiending for my love. But are you able to look at certain girls and just kind of tell, like, I think I see this, even though like you're not gonna push them like, okay, you have to go here, but like, are you able to like look and just say like, okay, I think this style fits her and stuff? Yeah. What do you usually see?
Yeah, I see it immediately. And I'm like, this is the school you need to go to, or this is even the college division of football you need to be cheering. There was a girl last year, and I'm still mentoring her now. She's probably like 5'4", just has that co-ed body style for like a traditional school, traditional UCA, just has that just college look. And every day I'm like, you need to go to you need to go to an SEC school. Like, you need to go to an SEC school. Versus another girl who is just, itty bitty, long legs, can tumble her butt off, handspring fulls all day long, standing tucks, standing fulls, cartwheel fulls. And I'm like, you need to go to an NCAA school. You need to go to an NCAA school. You love the all-star style. And then especially too, with stunt coming around now too, that's just something completely new, where maybe some of my girls who are just really strong bases and back spots, but necessarily don't have the stick and stand, standing tucks, 10 out of 10, definitely pushing them towards those schools like Baylor, who have those stunt programs that are going to offer scholarships, because stunt is already NCAA sanctioned. So.
Yeah, and that's what I was wondering, because I know it's a lot easier right now to get scholarships that way. And how are you able to discuss with the kids that you typically work with about like those scholarship opportunities, and explaining to them like the intricacies of maybe getting a scholarship, or explaining to them like, how some schools you can't get scholarships because some kids, they really don't understand that some schools don't offer scholarships, and there's so much red tape around just the funding of cheerleading in general.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that helped too is that at Southern Miss, we did get a scholarship. So that's something that I'm able to, when I talk to our parents and our athletes, is to let them know that it is possible. And then when we do go to those clinics, I make sure that that's the first question my athletes ask when they introduce themselves to the coaches. So I force all of my athletes to go introduce themselves to the coaches at some point, and to find a mentor buddy who's already on the team. And to start asking those questions before they've even applied to the school, to know if that's an option. Like, for instance, the girl that wants to go to Georgia, she's like, it's going to be out of state cost. And I'm like, you have a 4.3 GPA. I think something will get waived. But for instance, not every one of our athletes has that type of GPA to also get the scholarship educationally as well. But it's bringing up those conversations and honestly giving life skills to my athletes to teach them how to negotiate. One of my athletes went to West Georgia, and although we're in North Carolina, she was actually West Georgia's first North Carolina cheerleader to ever come. So they waived the out-of-state cost because we were kind of like sister states. So really just showing up, just really showing up and being present and consistent in those clinics. Because when you're being noticed in those clinics, a trend that I am starting to see is coaches are committing cheerleaders before tryouts now in a traditional, and they're wanting them beforehand, and they're offering those scholarships 2 or 3 months before tryouts.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I know I didn't get no scholarship. I didn't get a scholarship, but we didn't have to pay out of pocket for anything. But like I said, D2 HBCU, and I was at I think it was D3 or NAIA at the time, my first year in Kentucky. But like I said, those are things to be discussed, if that is something that's necessary, because it wasn't necessary for me. But I know some people, they might have not got a scholarship, but their dream is to cheer at this school.
Yeah.
So
and also too, being able to explain to the athletes and the parents that, if they are in a position where the school that they really want to go to doesn't offer scholarship, there's so much other support that you're getting. You are now a student athlete, so you're getting study hall. You have friends going into the first summer practice. Like, you already have best friends 2 months before you step on campus. You have a family. You're protected just by the sea of other athletes that are on campus. Tutor support, this, all of this, something that's really great too is just this structure going into your first year, where if you're not a student athlete, it's a very eye-opening moment your freshman year of college, realizing you have no one to tell you what to do. And so being on a team gives a lot of safety net to the parents of okay, we may not be getting a financial scholarship, but I know that my child's going to be protected and they have a family and some structure.
Exactly. Because I know that's one thing, even though we didn't get a scholarship, we still had to follow every protocol that every student athlete had to follow. Every test that we got, we had to go to an advisor. We always had to meet with them on a weekly basis and stuff. And I know for some people, that was necessary if they're going to keep their grades, especially like you said, when you're first getting to college and you're just realizing you have all this freedom. That's like your parent away from home. You're still, you still have someone on top of you making you go in for study hall or make you, do what you're supposed to do. So definitely. Now this is a little offline, but typically I know you do a lot of tumbling, but you still work with school. Now, do you help? Because I know you probably had some people who are used to all girls or co-ed, and then they want to go the opposite. How would you tell them, to prepare for that? Because I know, in my instance, for us, it's probably a little bit easier because they have the connection. We might be able to kind of put them in partnership, but just in general for anybody, if they're trying to switch over styles, I would just say in general styles, switch over styles to cheerleading so they can be on the teams they want to be on. How would you recommend doing that? Or would you just recommend staying in your niche?
Yeah, I'm a very honest coach. And I let them know, hey, you should probably be on all girl or you should be on co-ed. Obviously, on the college level, you're going to have the options for both teams. At the high school level, we're still seeing a lot of traditional all girl teams. I've been fortunate to coach about 2 co-ed teams on a high school level, but that's not what you see every single day. So the girls that do come to me and they do say that they want to cheer all girl, co-ed, the very first thing is I tell them is let's go find an all-star gym. Let's go find a co-ed, guy, or now we're starting to see a lot of girls be on co-ed as well, one-man stunts, and go stunt with them. Like, you need to be getting stunt reps in. These are the requirements. Going to the tryout packet from the school that they want to go to. That was their packet last year. What are they looking for? A chair, a toss hands, a toss lib. And then when they are registering for those clinics, they all come to me beforehand and say, do I need to register for all girl, or do I need to register for co-ed? And I try to teach them to think strategically. And I'll tell them, like, go watch their nationals routine from last year and you make that decision. What do you want to do when you get to college? Because also too, like, from a life standpoint, this is the first time that they're going to be making decisions for themselves, not just in cheer, but in everything. So really just teaching them how to make that decision. And when we get to clinics, I'm there at those clinics and I'm like, get over there, like, get over to co-ed, go spend half the day with all girl if you want to, but spend the other half at co-ed, because you need to know how to do both. And then you can make a decision. But then also just teaching your athletes to be flexible. You have no idea. I've seen college programs on the national level where on game day for the whole football season, you're an all-girl cheerleader, and then nationals happens and they need an extra top girl. And so you're going to go over to co-ed.
Yeah. And you never know what they're going to have you doing in college. I promise you, because I went in at Tuskegee thinking, oh yeah, back spot in here, let's go. Like, and then I got there and I've never cheered, with people who look like me, like a bunch of Black girls or Black women. And they're looking at me like, back spot, what? Like, I'm 5'3". I have long limbs, but like, they're just like, do you think you're gonna back spot here? And I'm just like, yeah. I was like, I'll be a tumbler then. They're like, no, you need to be a flyer. I said, oh no, we ain't doing that. End up fine by the end of the year because I had no choice. But like, just kind of keeping that flexibility. I know, like you said, just kind of being willing to bend, like whatever the coach needs you to do, you always got to be prepared, because you never know. You might go in saying one thing and then realize you might not. You might have the high school body for that, especially if you come from a small area like me. Like, yeah, I might have been a back spot in All Stars, but back spot in All Stars in college, are totally different things.
Yeah,
so
I was always a back spot. And then when we competed nationals for our elite stunt, I got thrown in as a secondary base. I think I was either secondary or main. And I was just like, just grab the foot, just find the foot. But it was just a moment of like, I had back spot my whole cheerleading career, but we competed like small co-ed. So we only really had 4 boys on the floor. So all the boys were our back spots. So I had to face. And so I train all of my athletes to learn every single position at the high school level.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend that, because some people say like, oh, I'll never do this. Never say never. Like, even some of my girls, they're like, they're thinking like, oh, I'm too big to be a flyer. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, you might think you're too big, but if you're doggone 5 even, and you're still like a pretty small body type and you can hold your weight, baby, you're probably going up in the air.
And I think a lot of people don't understand too, that when you get to that college level, everyone in your stunt group is the same size as you. Like, your flyer is just as tall as you. She's just as muscular as you. She's just as built as you. And then, there's those exceptions, but you're like chunking somebody up that's the same height as you, and you just, you're not getting a freshman that's 13 years old.
And I think that's one of the things that I think about, like, because everyone thinks about it like, okay, well, football, it kind of dwindles as far as who goes on to the next level. Like, middle school football players might not play in high school. High school football players, not everyone plays in college. And that's the same thing for cheer. There's a lot of people, at least from me seeing, there's a lot of people that I grew up with who to me were more talented than me, and they did not cheer at all. So like, you lose a lot of people along the way. So honestly, like, the talent pool, it gets very small. So everyone's going to be basically, like you said, like you. there's going to be, you might come in there like, oh yeah, I was the only person who had a standing tuck on my team. Okay.
Yeah.
The whole squad has standing tuck. Like, that's
Yeah.
nothing special to me. Like, and
Yep.
I feel like preparing kids for that rude awakening is very, and of course they learn it come clinic time. They're just looking like, oh crap, like they can
Like,
do this. Like,
yeah.
yeah. 'Cause I
And
had that experience.
yeah, that's why we go to those, because I want them to be around other people and not to intimidate them. But that's almost the joy of growing up and being an adult, is you're surrounded by so much other talent and it forces you to work hard.
Exactly.
And just along the lines of that too is, yes, I think we're slow, because cheer is starting to turn into a sport. We're slowly starting to do away from, oh, I want to be a rah-rah cheerleader, so I'm going to try out and
Mhm.
make the team. And you're starting to see a lot more cuts if you have the talent,
Yeah.
during the tryout process. But if you're picking 36 girls and you have, 60 people trying out, and 40 girls have standing back handsprings, and they can hold an extension or a lib, you're starting to see that change in the high school tryout process because the talent's
Oh yeah.
there now. And
Oh,
that's been really hard as a coach, because every little girl wants to be a cheerleader.
mhm.
Now you have these girls who are now at that high school level, when I coached them when they were 3 or 4, and they have been being coached since they were 3 in this sport. And it's exciting for me as a coach to finally see the sport be the potential that it can be, but it's also sad to have to turn away people.
Mhm.
But I got to kind of have that mask on of like, it's just the way that it's going right now, and I'm excited for what it's going to be.
Yeah, me too. Like I say, if you want to be treated like a sport, and I tell my girls this all the time. Like, if you want to be treated like a sport, if you want to have the same respect, then we're gonna have to put forth the effort. Because there's nothing wrong with having spirit. There's nothing wrong with being a rah rah cheerleader. However, you know, along with being a rah rah cheerleader, we need to also have like the stunts, the tumbling,
Yeah.
like the technique to back it up, to actually call ourselves athletes.
Yep.
So that, yeah, I can totally understand. And I've seen it, like you said, it's becoming way more competitive. Like, even my high school, when I came in, I think everyone who usually made it had a back handspring. Now I think most of them have a tuck, but they're becoming more of a real competition squad compared to when we were. And like, even when I was cheering, like, that was still, we were still pretty good. And I feel like now cheering, like you said, is just moving. It's becoming more and more elite. And it's like, what
Yeah.
are we gonna do with that?
Yeah. Coming
It's
from
whether starting early
Mississippi.
or something.
Yeah, coming from Mississippi, middle school squads, it's like in certain areas, they're required to have standing tucks now. High school squads are, and of course, this is traditional style cheer, but high school squads, they're throwing, two to fulls in their standing tumbling passes. And so just really starting to teach our athletes that, and then, but also letting them know that it's not just the tumbling, like it's not just the stunting. It's being well-rounded. I've put a full on a JV team because they don't have a game day face. They
Mm,
haven't learned how
yeah,
to share it. They haven't learned how to turn that off. You can show me all of the skills. You got 100 in that area, but game day, I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch you, They're
exactly.
teaching them that, because on the college level, that's the first thing they look at is, do
Mm.
you look like a game day cheerleader? Do you
Oh, this is a
represent our
question for
program?
you.
Yeah.
And it's being a little shady, but not really. Have you ever had kids or just people in general be like, "This isn't college, so why are you doing all this?" Because
Oh, yeah.
I've had that like
I
plenty of times, and I'm just like, I'm preparing you for college. Even if you're not, I'm preparing you for life after high school. I don't care if you never cheer again. Like, so I hold y'all accountable, because if we can do this in college, I expect you to be able to, when it comes to responsibility and stuff like that, I expect you to have that same level. Skill level, yeah, that can be hit or miss, depending on the school. But yeah, okay, so It's not
Yeah,
just
I've left programs where me and the assistant coach did not see eye to eye. And you can only do so much pushback for so long. And I'm the type of coach where I'm like, I'm going to give my energy to a program that understands my mission.
mm,
And so it's tough, but it's one of those things where it's like the football team, you go watch one of their practices, they're running their practices like a football, like a college program. These
exactly.
kids know what they're looking for. They know what's expected. And there's just no difference with cheerleading. You have to run your practices the way college programs run their practices. As a coach, I go watch college practices. I become friends with the college coaches and I
Hmm.
see what does their stretching routine look like? How much time do they spend on stunts? How much time do they spend on game day? What's the most important aspect during their practices? And then I bring that back to my athletes. So they're not culturally shocked when they go in for
Yes.
a clinic, when they go in and they make the team, when they go in for a program. And like my athlete that's at West Georgia right now, they are 24-time national champions on the UCA competitive
Mhm.
level. And so if I did not coach her that hard and that rigorous last year, she wouldn't have survived camp, and even at camp, she's calling me crying and she's just like, this is too much. This is so much. My body's so tired. And I was like,
Mm.
that's why I pushed you so hard. That's why I pushed you so hard. And so I think we talked about this a little bit too, is just that difference of being a coach versus being a sponsor, and being a coach,
Mm.
being
Oh,
able.
that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, for sure. But being a coach to me means preparing my athletes for what comes next, whether that's cheerleading, whether that's relationships, whether that's rejection, whether any, whatever that is. So,
Mhm. Okay, cool. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I definitely could do that. And also, okay, so I think I have like maybe one more question that I know I have to ask.
okay.
Um, and this is gonna come from personal. A lot of stuff comes from like personal, like everything that I've seen. So, a school that shall not be named that is in the SEC though.
Okay. I'm
But
like going through my list now.
oh, oh, that's a good bit. So when I was college searching, I went on a tour, and basically I was just like, I was like, "Hey, who's the cheer coach?" And they were like reluctant, like to answer me, like at all. And I'm just like, yeah, I got the skills. And they're like, well, if you want to try out for cheer, you have to have this and this. I'm like, okay, well, I do have a standard tuck. I have this and that. Like, I have the skill level because I'm probably, compared to that school, they're not a competitive program. So they said, oh, we need a recommendation from your cheer coach, um, to join the team, to like, or try out for the team. And I'm like, I get it, but I've never heard of that. And like I
Yeah.
said, this is 2013. So currently that might be something different. But just 2013, no one else like asked me for that. Like, and I visited multiple schools, and
Yeah.
they
That's
never
so
said that,
weird.
at least to my face. So have you ever come across programs as a coach that require recommendations from your from like you to for a girl, like, or for a student?
I know. And I've had a lot of girls go to college here in college. Maybe I am also the type of coach that I introduce myself to all of the coaches. So they kind of already know me personally. So they know who my athlete is when we're there. But the actual formal process of trying out, no.
Yeah, it was just weird because, like, where I cheered at in high school, and basically my head coach, like for my team, was the coach at Alabama. So I was just like, okay, well, I can get a recommendation from him if you want. But
Did
I'm just like,
Brandon
is it
coach you? Yeah.
yes.
Brandon.
That's how so I can get the coach from Alabama to give me a recommendation, but I don't know if y'all would see that as positive coming from like basically a
Bible
competitor
school,
school.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, but that was a hot mess. Like after that, I was just like, yeah, I'm not going
Yeah.
here. I
Having
was just like, I could not put myself. I had my options open, but I was just like, ugh. If
Yeah, even when
you're
I
gonna act like that, and I was like, that wasn't even the cheer coach. That was just like a random person.
oh yeah, well then go to the coach next time.
I was trying to get the information. I was just like, who is the coach so I can talk and we can get to meet each other and just say like, hey, child. I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I don't think this relationship because every relationship, yeah, and you'll probably teach your girls that, and I would definitely teach students that relation, like you have to feel comfortable with the team, with the coaches. Like if you go there and feel out of place, like you can't talk to them or I don't know, bad vibes. Like usually your body can sense a negative environment. If you go somewhere and you feel like negativity or just feel animosity or something like that, that's not the place for you. Even if it was like your dream school and you go there and you're just like, heck no.
Yeah.
It's okay
I've had a
to
couple girls for clinics and guys, they wanted to go to a particular school's clinic. And as a coach, I'm like, okay, I'll take you. And we go. And immediately, for one, as a coach, I'm like, I will not send an athlete to this program. I didn't like the way they ran anything. I know what type of style they are, but I know where even as a high school coach, I want to send my girls to a program where I know that it's going to be good for them. But just being able to, after taking them to so many different clinics, being able to hear them say, Coach Myka, like we didn't like that clinic. Like we really liked this college's clinic and the way they ran it, or we got a lot of reps in. And so I have that conversation with them where I let them know, I'm like, okay, that's an intro to what your program may look like throughout the year. That may be how she coaches. It may not run like that. So those are just things that you need to take into consideration when you're deciding.
exactly. I feel like clinics are probably, to me, probably the pretty side of it, honestly, because most of the time you put on your best face when you're around guests. So if you don't like it when they're putting on their best face to impress you,
Yeah.
then what's gonna go on behind the scenes when you actually get on the spot?
Yep, for sure. And so like even with our practices, we have a very like rigorous workout schedule. I make sure that they're with our strength and conditioning coach, lifting once a week because that's what you're going to do on the college level. Some programs require you to run a mile or under a certain time. At Southern Miss's tradition since way before us was every Tuesday and Thursday, you had to run a mile. Girls were under 7:30, guys were under 7. And if you did not make it over under 7:30, you had a 2-minute break and then you had to run another mile under 10. There was one time I did not make that, but had I had not worked out in high school, that would have been such a shocker. And so really adding in those type of things to practices as well, because when you get to that college level, you're on a meal plan, you're seeing a nutritionist, you're seeing a coach, depending on what the program's, budget is. But any coach that's coaching at that level wants their athletes to be in the best shape possible, regardless of what the financial status is of the program.
Exactly. Okay. I'm trying to see. You have anything else, like any questions or anything else you want to chit chat about? Because I tried to keep it within a certain time frame. But if you have
Yeah, I would
anything
just
like that, you
say,
definitely let people know.
yeah, I would just say for like any athlete out there that is like interested in cheering in college, social media is a great tool now. Go on those college programs, social media pages and their websites, and first of all, see what their look is. Are you the type of cheerleader that wants to wear a bow facing this way, or do you want to wear a ribbon facing that way? You know, do you even like their school colors? Do you like that program? And then also too, do they have your major that you want to major in? You know, I purposely picked schools that had really good journalism programs. And so that also helped me narrow down my choice of where I wanted to cheer at as well. And then if you can just get to those clinics, you know, go try a clinic if you can. Email, you know, DM one of the cheerleaders who's already in the program and just become friends with them. And then just from a coach's standpoint, I challenge all coaches out there, no matter what style of cheer your program is or where your athletes want to go, really study the different types of cheerleading that's out there so you can get your athletes to where they want to be. And just because one of your athletes says that they don't want to cheer in college, I still would encourage you to get them at a clinic at least once, because I've like, I don't want to say like change, but I've turned the knob on a lot of athletes who thought no, and now they're a definite yes, and now they're cheering on ESPN, you know. So yeah, I just encourage everyone just to do their research on what college cheerleading is.
Awesome. And from a previous person who works with college readiness and all that stuff, I can second a lot that you said. I focus on the academics and you're getting on the sports end. So awesome. But yeah, so there's nothing else. I appreciate you coming and chatting with me. You know, we got to talk about a lot.
Yeah.
We're gonna get together again because we have so many things we could discuss.
Yeah, I am so excited
Oh,
for this partnership between you, so we can get a lot done.
yes, awesome. So let me end this and oh, let me stop.